I will read a quote, and I love his wisdom, that says, the most important thing in life is to do something you enjoy, but the second most important thing is to get someone to pay for it. Today, he is the temporary custodian of the Magna Carta. He's the owner of the Baltimore Orioles. He's a leading philanthropist and author of his latest book, The Highest Calling. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcoming David Rubenstein to the stage. So good to have you. David, please grab a seat. So David and I have been doing this for a few years, and he's the one speaker that I always love to prepare because he's always witty, always prepared. And I am going to start with the following. I'm not going to start with investments. We'll get to it. Everybody asks you that. I'm extremely interested in the following. You obviously have the only copy of the Magna Carta that is in private hands. You have copies of the Declaration of Independence. You own the Bay Psalm book, which is the first book printed in the United States. When I look at art and when I look at preservation at iArtist, what we're doing is we're trying to help young artists and museums and people see art. What is driving you? You have done so much. What is behind it? What is driving David to do all these things?
On those documents? Or
on yes, it's not just those documents. There's a long list of you. You are looking to collect lyrics.
I wasn't very talented when I was younger, and I was trying to impress my parents that maybe they didn't make a mistake in having me. So I thought, okay, if I can actually accomplish something, they might say, I did something useful with my life. But to be very serious, everybody should say, what am I doing on the planet Earth? Why am I here? And what am I doing to make my existence here worthwhile? To do that, I think the best thing to do is to try to help other people. It produces more happiness than anything else. Happiness is the most elusive thing in life. And I think more people are happy when they help other people. And also there's a tendency, if your parents are still alive, try to make your parents proud for what you've done and what you are doing. It's very hard to make your children proud, but you can make your parents proud. And actually feel like you're doing something useful. All of you have some occupation, no doubt it's a useful occupation, but is it one that's actually making humanity better? Are you doing something to contribute to society? And you don't have to be wealthy to give away your philanthropy. You can give your time. Your most valuable thing you have is your time. You have a finite amount of it. We don't know how much time we all have, but it's a finite amount. You don't have a finite amount of money. You can always make more money. But if you give your time and your energy to something, you can make a real difference in the world. In preserving documents and preserving buildings, let me just explain. The way the human brain works, we look at a computer slide, and it's not quite the same as seeing the Magna Carta in person. If you see a computer slide of the Magna Carta, you'll forget it quickly. But if you actually see it in person, you're more likely to remember it. And if you remember history, you're likely to remember the mistakes of the past, remember the good things that were done in the past, and try, which is what history is all about, learning the mistakes of the past and correcting them and doing things better in the future. So that's why I want to preserve things, so people can learn things from them, and they'll hopefully make better decisions in the future.
Let's go to the Orioles. You're overseeing a $400 million renovation of the stadium to be ready for the 2026 season. How do you balance the heart of a 30-year-old stadium with the needs for modern technology and what the fans want today?
Okay, so most people here are probably not baseball aficionados, but baseball in the United States is, a very popular sport. Had small stadiums in the early days. There are very few of them left. They were built by entrepreneurs in the early part of the 20th century, the most famous of which is Fenway Park or Wrigley Park. They're very small. But then later, when football came along, cities began to build what I would call androgynous stadiums that could be used for football and baseball. But the disadvantage for baseball is that stadiums were so big you weren't close to the field. So about 30 years ago, the Orioles have built a new stadium in downtown Baltimore. It was like an old stadium. You're close to the field. And now it's 30 years old, so we're renovating it. It's considered a historic stadium now. And the trick is when you're renovating something historic, you don't want to screw it up. So we have a very careful plan to kind of not ruin anything and hopefully make it somewhat more modern and somewhat better.
It's interesting, David, because you have so many projects. Obviously, we'd like you with us for a long time. And you have your series, Longevity, with David Rubenstein.
Yes.
You've been able to interview top doctors. And we have an audience, by the way, in their early 20s, as I can see. So
Early 20s? I don't know. But,
maybe mid-late 20s, fine.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you, what is like 2 or 3 top things you wished you could go back and maybe have started doing from the age of 40?
Well, I wish I had exercised more. I think that would have been good. I think I made some investments that weren't as good as the ones I should have made. I passed on Facebook when Mark Zuckerberg was in college. I passed effectively on Amazon when Jeff Bezos showed up with it. I passed on so many deals that I wish I had done. I've been smarter, so I wish I had done better deals. I wish I had been kept in shape better, exercised more. I wish I had read more. And then, of course, everybody says the same thing. I wish I spent more time with my children. Now, I have 3 children. They're all doing private equity. So you could argue that I've either done something right or something wrong. Each of my children are in the same field I'm in. So is that a good thing or not a good thing? I don't know. But hopefully I'll look at their rates of return. Hopefully if they do a good job, and I'll say they did a good job in being in private equity. But in the end, almost everybody gets to the latter stages of their life and wishes they could do some things better than they had done. It's inevitable, and I'm no different than anybody else. The interesting thing about longevity is this. Depending on whether you believe in God or not, somebody created the Earth, the solar system, and humans in a way that everything works in a very finite way. The Earth rotates a certain amount every day the same way. It revolves around the sun the same way. Everything is very precise. And we know if you want to have a baby, it takes 9 months for gestation for humans. And for every animal, everything works very precise. And you can tell where the sun's going to be at any given time, 50 years in the future, 100 years in the future, 1,000 years in the future. The one thing that I can't understand is why God or whoever created all of this did not do is figure out why we don't have a finite time about how long we're going to live. It's a mystery. We know when a child's going to be born. We know almost everything about how to make the human healthier, but we don't know when you're going to die, and that's a mystery of life. And you can begin to extend your life, and most people on the face of the earth want to live longer. Obviously, some people commit suicide; they don't. But generally, 99.99% of people in life want to live longer. And when humans came out of caves 400,000 years ago, they did not know that eating healthy would enable them to live a little bit longer. The average life expectancy at 400,000 years ago was 20. In 1900, the average life expectancy in the United States was 49. In 1935, when we got the 34, when we built the Social Security system, the average life expectancy was 65, which is the age you could retire. So people died at the same age they could retire. Today, the life expectancy in the United States is probably in the late 70s, early 80s, and it's going to get longer and longer. But how do you actually live longer? And now the science of longevity has enabled people to study it, and I've done some TV shows on how you can live longer.
So we were discussing recently with our common good friend Dimitri Argyropoulos the fact that you received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for your philanthropic contributions. Do you think that kind of is the end? You've done your duty, or is it just the beginning, or is it just raising the stakes and you keep going?
It's everybody likes, I guess, to get honors. So I just wish my mother had been alive to see it. But my children were alive and they saw it. And they came to the ceremony at the White House, I think because Magic Johnson was also getting an award and they wanted to meet him. I don't think they kind of cared about the medal that I was getting. But I guess most people in life want to be honored, and it's okay. You can be over-honored. And I keep telling people I don't want to be honored anymore because I got enough honors. But in our country, the highest medal you can get if you're in military combat is the Congressional Medal of Honor. And that's generally, unfortunately, many of those are given posthumously because people do things in combat and they lose their lives. Some people obviously live. And then for civilians, it's the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which was more or less started by President Kennedy. And presidents can give them out to whomever they want to. And I got lucky and got one.
So let's look again at, go back in time. You mentioned that you wanted your mother to be there to see it. Your father was a postman.
Right.
When today you own the Orioles, you're sitting in the owner's box, do you see yourself there as David the billionaire, the successful private equity person, or are you the old boy that is routing for the O's?
Well, when I was a boy, I would buy bleacher seats for 75 cents, and then every couple innings I would sneak in the better seats, and eventually some usher would come along and say, "Get out of here, you didn't deserve to sit in these seats." I still worry that somebody's going to show up at the owner's box and say, "Hey, get out of here, you don't really own the team." You never know. I didn't ever think I'd be an owner. I did it because I wanted to give back to my hometown of Baltimore, which gave me a public education. That was good. And Baltimore has a lot of challenges. It's a city that's lost a lot of population, has a lot of high STD rates, murder rates, crime rates, a lot of challenges. And so I thought maybe if I could revitalize the baseball team that hadn't gotten to the World Series in over 40 years, maybe I could help the city in that way. So it was really a philanthropic thing. I don't want to lose money on it, but I will hold the team for such a long time that I will be dead before I realize whether it's a good investment or not. My children will figure out whether they're going to sell it or not and make a profit. Who knows?
David, let me move a little bit into markets. You've seen many bubbles in your life, markets going up and down. We're seeing AI. Everybody's talking about AI. With valuations of AI where they are in 2026, do you think this is a fundamental shift in productivity and GDP? Or do you think it's the classic case of investor euphoria? Or are we somewhere in between?
Probably somewhere in between. I think there's a lot of euphoria. Obviously, the valuations of companies are staggering in the artificial intelligence area and probably not sustainable. Remember, most companies in the artificial intelligence area are not making any money. They have plans to invest in artificial intelligence, to build businesses and to make money at time. But other than NVIDIA, not that many people are really making money from selling artificial intelligence related products. Some are, but not that many. Right now, everybody wants to be in the next big thing. What induces investors is the word new. People want to be with something new. And the new thing now is AI, and so people are rushing to get on the ground floor. But a lot of people are going to lose money because the valuations are high and some companies won't work out. So yeah, there's a bit of euphoria in it. But on the other hand, very smart people make mistakes and they go into bubbles, and you don't really know you're in a bubble until it bursts. I'd say it's probably not a gigantic bubble. It's not the tulip bulbs in Holland, but it's something more significant than just a nice, fancy phenomenon going along. There's clearly some bubble elements there.
Guys, as I continue, if you have questions for David, if you can stand here so I can see you because of the lights, so we can ask him some questions as well. David, let me move on to the following. You've interviewed many people. You've wrote books about it. What are some of the common traits that you find in very successful people, like a Warren Buffett or an Oprah Winfrey?
Well, very successful people, and I've said in my books like that, you can divide your life into three parts. And generally, the people that win the first third of life are not always the people that become the most successful. If you think back to your high school, who was the high school student body president, the editor-in-chief of the newspaper, the all-star athlete? Very often, they work so hard to get there that by the time they're done the first third of life, they kind of rest on their laurels. And the people that actually win life are the people that are kind of like me, like a turtle, and just moving slowly in the first third. Nobody thought I would amount to that much, and then you just eventually get lucky. In the second third, you can, pull ahead of the people who are ahead of you in the first third. So a lot of people that I've studied, interviewed, and analyzed are people that weren't superstars in the beginning, and they moved along. For example, take the presidents of the United States. In the last 100 years, the only person who could be said to have been qualified to be president of the United States from the time he was a boy was probably Bill Clinton. He was a student athlete, student body president, a Rhodes Scholar, the only president of the United States to be a Rhodes Scholar, and Rhodes Scholar is usually an indication you're pretty good in the first third of life. But every other person who became president of the United States, nobody thought they would amount to that much in the beginning because they came from modest families. They weren't good athletes. They weren't good scholars. They weren't good students. They didn't have great professional success. And then luck took them along. So you just never know who's going to be successful. You can probably tell probably by the time somebody's 40 or not whether they're going to make it or not. But look at our current president of the United States. He became president of the United States when he was in his 70s. He's now 79 years old, and he was a real estate developer. Nobody, I think, thought, maybe other than him, at the age of 40 that he would be president of the United States, or age of 50, or even age of 60. So you just can't predict. But those people who do have qualities that in common that do get there, with some exceptions, they generally are pretty smart. They're not geniuses, but pretty intelligent. They know how to communicate. The key to life is persuading people to do what you want. And you persuade people by writing well, by talking well, or by leading by example. People will follow people if you are good at, as being a leader. You have to communicate well. So leaders are good at communicating. They're also good at, I think, inspiring the people to follow them. They also have a vision of where they want to go. They generally also have some qualities a quality that some people don't have: humility. The really good leaders, I've found, are people that recognize they got lucky in life and they have some humility about them. Warren Buffett doesn't walk around saying, I'm the smartest investor of all time. He's just not his personality. And you can't see Abraham Lincoln saying, guess what? I just emancipated the slaves. Aren't I great? Or I won the Civil War. Aren't I terrific? It's not usually the case. There are some leaders, I won't mention any, that probably brag about themselves a bit, but generally leaders really are more humble because they realize how lucky they are to have gotten where they are.
Guys, any questions? Here we go. We have one question in the back. If we can get you a microphone. Guys, one microphone. If we can get one microphone. Yeah, okay. It's coming. It should be open. Just bring the microphone out. As is. Just thank you. The gentleman there in the back. Ladies first, very good.
What would you do as a philanthropy?
What would you do as a philanthropist?
Philanthropy and you as an investor in educating doctors in the world to bring impact to all over the world.
Go back to preventative medicine.
Okay.
If you can pass the microphone to the gentleman.
Preventative medicine is a great concept. Obviously, in the United States, I don't know if this mic is working.
Yeah.
In the United States, we have a system where we pay people to reimburse people for services once they're sick. We're not that great in preventing things because the medical establishment has grown up in a way where we pay people once they're sick to get and fix them, and we're pretty good at fixing people. Preventing things is not what we're really good at. Clearly, doctors would be better served to get their patients to do things that are more preventative. So I have a doctor, and he's always telling me do this, do that, and I always say, thank you, I'm thinking about it, I'm okay right now, and then I ignore him. And so it's not a good thing to do. I think it's a good thing to actually get the government of the United States or any government to kind of save money by having more preventive medicine, because as you know, if you keep somebody healthy, they're not going to charge the government very much for medical problems that they later have. We spend an enormous amount of money preventing people from dying for the last 9 months of their life, and at that point it's too late to prevent any illness. If we had spent more money preventing people from getting some of these illnesses, we'd be better off, but I don't have an easy solution for it, for sure.
And if I may add an anecdote, I was at dinner yesterday, and they said, when it comes to preventative medicine, in the past we used to have all these experiments on apes. The good news these days is we have all these billionaires trying everything out. So they really want to live forever, and they're trying everything. So there's hope. If I may have your question, but please, as a question rather than a speech.
Hello? Is the mic on? Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So that was clearly a more important question, but David, it's clear to everybody in the room that you've acquired a lot of wisdom.
A little bit louder, if you don't mind.
It's clear that you have acquired a lot of wisdom during your business life and political and human life. The question is, David, what your perspectives are on the simulation theory. Elon Musk likes to talk about it. AI is clearly leading us towards maybe a state where humanity would find difficulty in distinguishing reality from simulation because it's crazy what we see. What are your perspectives on that risk and on the simulation theory?
Well, every generation from thousands of years have thought that new things are going to come along and ruin the civilization that we already have. And it turns out that most things come along are actually better, not always. We now have invented atomic bombs. We have all the kinds of weapons that can kill people. We know how to kill people really well. I think in the 20th century, for example, humans managed to kill 160 million other people. We killed in the 20th century through wars and other things 160 million people. So we're pretty good at inventing ways to kill people. But generally, civilization moves forward in ways to make people healthier and live longer and other kinds of things. So I don't think that all the kind of things we're now talking about, AI and things, are going to ultimately wipe out civilization. I don't think robots are going to come along and kill us all. But I do think that civilization will move forward and I think probably at a more rapid rate than it has in the past 100 years or so, to making people's lives better, hopefully distributing wealth much better than it did before. But I don't worry about these technologies ruining civilization. We worry for hundreds of years that new things coming along would ruin humanity, and it really hasn't happened. You could argue some things weren't great, as I mentioned, like atomic weapons, but on the whole, I think the new things that are coming along are probably going to make our lives better and easier. The trick is making sure that they don't get distributed only to a few wealthy people. And as you know, we have 8 billion people on the face of the earth, and about 2 billion people still don't have internet access. And how are you going to really survive in the world, know what's going on if you have no internet access? So we got to do a better job of distributing the wealth, and also a better job of educating people. We have a lot of problems in the United States with people who are completely uneducated, illiterate, and it's a big challenge in our own country.
Any last questions? One last question, lady.
Thank you. You seem to be extremely smart and wise, so I'm kind of wondering, as a founder, what made you pass on Zuckerberg and Bezos? And also, like, if a founder would come to pitch you today, because the world is moving so fast, what would you look for?
Right.
In a world that's moving so fast, what do you look for?
And why not?
To do what? For purpose of what?
For?
When it comes to investing in founders, what do you look for today?
Investing in partners.
Oh, to invest in.
Yeah.
Well, you're always looking at new technologies, because new things are going to be, if they're really new, they probably can get them at a lower valuation. And the trick is, investing in a relatively lower valuation. So I'm always looking for new things that other people are thinking are good. For example, in the consumer space, looking for things that young people are adopting in fashion or food. Watching what young people do is a good indicator of where the future is going. And so very often, I try to see what younger people are doing, what habits they're adopting, and if you look at the businesses that they might be supporting, in the end, they might be very good to invest in. But in the end, the main message I wanted to convey to everybody is that in the end, we're very privileged to be in a situation where we can come to an event like this and we can learn a lot. But in the end, I hope everybody goes back and realizes how fortunate we are, and we should do more to give back to other people in our society, our neighborhood, and hopefully feel that we've done something useful with our life and we've made a contribution to society by virtue of our having been on the face of the earth for 70, 80, or 90 years.
Alex, last question.
David, quick question. And you've made a positive impact in my life from being a mentor 20 years ago, so thank you for that. What kind, at Carlyle's scale at the moment, what kinds of decisions truly require your founder's judgment?
What kind of decisions?
What kind of decisions at Carlyle at this level require your wisdom at this size?
At this level, none. I founded the firm, really. It was my idea, and I had ran it with another person for 30 plus years. And when I stepped back, I turned it over to two people. That didn't work out because they didn't get along with each other so well. So we then brought in a guy named Harvey Schwartz, who had been the president of Goldman Sachs, and he's done a spectacular job. And I try to help him, and he's here at Davos. But generally people in their 50s or 60s are not looking for advice from people in their 70s, my observation is. So I will help out, but generally I'm not sure that he needs my advice that much. But occasionally I have an idea and I'll give it to him. And generally what CEOs do when they get ideas from founders, they're very polite and they say that's a good idea, and then probably nothing happens. But in the end, you have your time when you're in the arena, you're running things, and then at some point you're not in the arena anymore. And so you should adapt that and recognize you have other things you can do in life, and maybe running a publicly traded company is not something for somebody who gets to be, an older age where you need to be younger to really keep up with all things. So I'm involved in Carlyle. I'm the co-chairman still. I'm probably the biggest shareholder, and I hope the company does extremely well. I get a lot of stock, which I've committed to give away to lots of different organizations. But I don't know that, the CEO of Carlyle is probably looking to me every day for good advice. But if he has any questions, I'm always happy to talk to him. So I appreciate your inviting me, and I'm honored to be a member of YPO, thanks to you. And I love to go into Monaco, and I try to go at least once a year, and hopefully I'll be there this summer again.
It'd be a pleasure to have you,
right,
as always,
thank you.
David. Thank
Appreciate
you so
it.
much
Bye.
for being with us.
That's it. Bye.
Just a quick picture.
Thank you. Thank you.
David, just a quick...
Okay, sorry.
Monaco.
Okay, didn't think anybody want a picture with me, but okay.